here's an interesting instance of some biological pest control. This is the coconut rhinoceros beetle, and as you may guess from the name, it lives and breeds and eats coconut trees. Mainly the larvae do. The female beetles will lay their eggs on the coconut trees, and then the eggs will hatch into larvae. The larvae will live and eat on there until it's time for them to mature into adults, in which the whole cycle repeats over again. Most of the time they live on older and dead or dying trees and help actually to protect the health of the other trees by taking care of the older dying ones. However, that is not always the case, and oftentimes they do attack healthy and especially young trees, in which case the whole tree will die as a result of this, which is not great for the tree, as well as for communities that rely heavily on those trees for a large part of their economy. Now, these beetles are native to Asia in areas such as China, India, the Maldives, and the Philippines, and that's mostly fine. In those places that they're native to, they have natural predators, in which case they will control the beetle population. There are methods in place naturally that help control these beetles so they don't become a massive problem. However, due to human activity, they have moved to other places. However, due to human activity, these beetles have been introduced to places such as Guam, Samoa, Hawaii, Vanuatu, and the Solomon Islands, and these smaller places don't really have any natural predators or natural controls in place to actually manage the population of these, so they are devastating to the coconut and other palm populations on those islands. In native areas that these beetles naturally live in, they're not so much of a problem because they can be controlled naturally. But when they're introduced to other places, they can wreak havoc because there is no natural controls, at which point they become invasive and damage the environment as well as the economy. That's where this guy comes into play. This is the Orestes rhinoceros nudivirus. It's a type of virus that specifically attacks the larva of the coconut rhinoceros beetle. Now, there were experiments with other control options, but chemical controls like pesticides as well as predators and parasitoids were not found to be very effective against the introduced populations of the coconut rhinoceros beetle. They were not very effective, and the population just kept growing and growing and causing more damage, so they looked to the pathogens, such as viruses like these. Now, this nudivirus attacks the larvae and causes them to die or not develop fully, and those of them that do survive don't have nearly as long a lifespan as adults as healthy beetles do. Since the other biological or chemical control options were not nearly as effective as this has been the main go-to, and populations of the beetles would be intentionally infected with this specific nudivirus, and it would spread amongst the population of the invasive beetles, and causing them to just not breed or survive as effectively. Now, of course, there are always risks with this. It could mutate and spread to other insect species that aren't adapted to this and aren't causing as much a problem, which could impact those populations. There's always the possibility of the target beetles developing resistance, which is happening in a couple certain populations, but that is the same thing that happens with pesticides as well. They can also develop pesticide resistance. So currently, this is the safest and most effective option of controlling the population of this beetle, specifically in areas where they're invasive and don't have those natural predators and natural control options. And since this is only really being used in areas that they're invasive and not native to, there isn't really the risk of the entire species becoming extinct like what happened on Fiji with the Lavuina moth.